Hi, it's Jeff here from Ambition Health and Performance Clinic. Today I'm going to run through 3 key stretches that you can use to improve the flexibility and mobility of your hips, okay? Unfortunately, we spend a lot of time sitting on our butt and everything gets a bit compressed and we don't spend enough time working to counteract that. If you think about it, you've got 9 to 12 hours, some people, I say, sitting at a desk all day, and we might spend, I suppose, 15 minutes for the rest of the week trying to improve our flexibility, if anything at all. So here goes. I'll concentrate on the 3 key stretches I feel that will make a difference for you, okay? I'll move back to my exercise area because we are in lockdown right now, so that's just how things are. So I'm just going to warm up the area a little bit first through a bit of dynamic movement through the inside of the thigh here, okay? Just carefully lengthening those muscles running from the pelvis up towards the knees. Just something nice and light. And then just moving the legs side to side. It's like a lower body rotation for the pelvis, but a really simple version to loosen up the hips. Slipping on the carpet, but no doubt you will have to work in a similar environment to me. Okay, a little reach forward. Very gentle, not overextending. Just pushing the bottom back, tilting the pelvis forward. Getting an idea of how the hamstrings feel. Try not to flex the spine. So push that bottom back a bit further. And we'll try to do that without flexion, but as you see, I've probably got a bit of work to do to perfect that, but when I did that, great dynamic stretch within the back of the leg. Then moving into a 90-degree position with my left leg forward, and then transferring to my right leg forward. Just gently applying a little bit of pressure as I do so, getting an idea of how that feels. And then moving into a lunge stretch position, just gently pulsing forward, just to really warm up and lightly mobilize the areas that we're going to spend the time stretching. So essentially this is about developmental stretch of 3 key areas: inner thigh, stroke hamstring, hip flexors, stroke quads, and the piriformis into the hips that seem to get real tight in most people through sitting. Okay, so our first stretch, I'll show you from the side. We allow the knees to fall as far to the side as we possibly can. We try and keep the spine in a neutral position. For the likes of me, supporting onto the forearms here. And as you push back, you will feel the stretch towards the inside of the thigh. A different perspective, often called the frog stretch. You can see how my feet are also turned out as well. Now for this stretch, in order to get anywhere, you really have to try and hold it for 1 to 3 minutes. Now I would not recommend you do this before a big training session. That's the wrong thing to do. If you're going to have a training session, then you might move gently back and forth, which I call dynamic frog. I don't have no idea what other people call it. I have a client who's another name for it, but who has another name for this, but she remains silent. So as you see, we're developing the stretch, so I've just taken the knees a little bit further away. So I like to start using my breathing technique once this starts to get somewhere. So I will inhale and I'll exhale as we push a little bit further away. As you can probably hear, I'm getting a great stretch to the inside of the thigh right now, into this frog stretch. Now I could hold this for a bit longer, that's been probably over a minute. I should bring that in using my arms to help me bring those legs together. And then for a bit of individual attention, I will take the right leg to the side. I'll support myself in the forearms and the left knee. And I will get a stretch right into the right side, inside of thigh. After 30-40 seconds, I can start to use that breathing technique again. You just hold it there and let the muscle lengthen. Using the forearms again, I would bring that in and then transfer into this position here with the toe pointing up. You may see I have a bit of a crook in my leg here. I had a very bad accident and I have an enormous cyst, and part of my calf muscle protrudes from the back of the knee. Believe me, I could barely walk 3 years ago, so have faith. So now the focus is on the hamstring and towards the inside of the thigh. And again, same thing with the breathing. Trying to breathe diaphragmatically, although I'm doing a lot of talking, I know. Inhalation. And exhale as you try to take it a little bit further. I often do that 3 times. But for the purpose of today, I will move on to the other side. And there's the left leg now. Stretch for the inside of the thigh. Excuse the shouting children from the other room. They're at home. Schools are closed. Needs be, eh? So now into the left side. Same thing. The longer you hold the stretch, the greater the effect. Is developmental stretching to be done independently of a workout, or at the end of a tough work. Never this at the beginning. Slightly different perspective at the beginning, based upon a more dynamic stretching and mobilization. And as you saw before, we'll then turn to focus into the hamstring and the back of the thigh. Different means of holding now, both hands are down. And for a third time. There we are. Well, I'm not broken yet, so far so good. I often break that up with a child's pose, 15-20 seconds. We're good. Okay, so during the warm-up to the stretch, I went into this 90-90 position. So this 90-90 position, with respect to the leading leg, into the piriformis, the kind of back lateral side of the hip. This may be enough for most of you. So for those of us who are slightly on the tighter side, I recommend this position, 90 degrees in the front leg, 90 at the back. Apply a bit of pressure with the hand here, push the bottom back, tip your pelvis forward, and you will get the stretch into the piriformis. So look at the spine again. My spine is neutral. I'm not flexing the spine. I don't recommend the method where you see people just falling forward like this. The stretch really doesn't occur. You are pushing the bottom back and tilting the pelvis forward. So the same thing with the breathing. recommend after 30-40 seconds, you breathe in, diaphragmatically of course, breathe out, and try and extend that a little further. And you could do 3 of those. Now we then do the same to the other side, except here I'm going to go into a full pigeon stretch, which is the more advanced form of this stretching. So again, my right leg front, a right angle on the outside of the knee, toes slightly pointing towards the shin, seems to help with knee instability. And then my rear leg goes all the way back, and I attempt to point both hips forward. And there is the classic, super effective pigeon stretch. Like so. Now it's the same thing with the spine. We don't flex the spine stays in neutral. I'll show you from the back, another view. Look at my spine, neutral spine, okay? I'm not doing the old fall forward. And again, 1 to 3 minutes. Now, I've found with many people that they can start off super tight in one of these particularly. And if you do approach this with some level of consistency with the previous frog stretch I've given you, you will make great progress and your movement experience will go absolutely through the roof. Things will change dramatically for everyone. I've noticed it particularly with a kickboxer of late who I've been working with, just on corrective flexibility for him, so it will change dramatically. So, now for the front of the hip. If you find your front thighs and your hip flexors are tight, here's how we can stretch them. We can get into this lunge stretch here. On the side, again spine neutral, just squeezing the buttock and pushing the hip forward. Now I've had a lot of other practice. I do have other stretches I use for hip flexor. I've had other people say this does not stretch the hip flexor. Well, it does. It's all about what you do with your glute. You squeeze your glute, you tilt your hip under, and you could feel that hip flexor stretch running across your hip and right into the feeling of the abdominal, where that hip flexor psoas will connect into the lumbar vertebrae at the back. So a fabulous stretch. Again, it's the same rules. There's my tighter side, can you see? Left side. Same rules. 1 to 3 minutes. Squeeze the glute. So my left side needs a bit of work, yeah? You can see that? Oh, I can feel it. Inhalation, remember. Take it a bit further. Inhalation. And as I said, you could do that 3 times. And there you are. And now the icing on the cake. My old friend Silas Cullen, well-known trainer of triathletes based in France. Silas Cullen, super Kiwi. Taught me this years ago when I was working with quite a few runners. So we place the foot up to the chair, we squeeze the buttock, and we tilt the hip forward. And then we have the stretch running down the front of the hip and into the front of the thigh. It's a great stretch for the rectus femoris that crosses the hip and the knee. But squeeze the glute, there's the psoas. And again, it's the same thing. 1 to 3 minutes. Try and keep squeezing that butt. If it's difficult, you can squeeze a few seconds and release. You can squeeze and release. So you're creating a better relationship if your hip flexors are tight and your glutes are weak, which most people who sit will have weak glutes. Runners, you may well have weak glutes and tight with the front of the thigh, front of the hip. So take note. There we are. Other side. So, you know, a few different techniques as to how we can develop these stretches. Here's my tighter side. Just to let you know, I can be a little bit tight through the front of the hip and tight through the back of the right hamstring. So it's got that cross pattern approach. So here, what I tend to do is inhalation, breathe out, try and take it a bit further. All after a period of 30-40 seconds. Okay, so that was a summary of how you can unlock your hips for the tight guy. Yeah, that's me, and it might be you. Thank you very much for listening. Any questions, you know where I am. It's Jeff at ambitionfitness.com. Bye for now.